Здравствуйте, мои уважаемые зрители.
Hello again, my dear viewers. In our yard, April 3rd continues, and the traditional report from the fronts. What is happening on the fronts of the Ukrainian war? Following directions: Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy. In general, I have already said earlier, we will not return to this direction until and immediately go to the main direction is Donbass. What do we have going on here? According to the latest poll, my viewers who live in the combat zone report, very serious today. We are with artillery strikes on the city. Barvenkovo. Russian artillery, Russian aviation, strikes. Position processing, AFU is in full swing. It is clear that there will be big fights here very soon, because Barvenkovo. This is the principal point, which, AFU, you cannot give in any way. Why is it so important? Barvenkovo, because, if taken, Barvenkovo, then the Russian army opens up very good prospects for the rapid coverage of the grouping, AFU, located in Slavyansk, Kramatorsk. If, however, the armed forces of Ukraine hold Barvenkovo, then you will have to attack on a rather narrow front, all the while expecting a blow to the flank. On the direction, Slavyansk, relative calm. No serious attacks have been made here yet. Gorlovka district, troop DPR, past the next, they're up to 1 kilometer, and gradually cover from the north. Avdiivka. Russian artillery continues to work, the defense is gnawed through, but so far not as fast as someone would like. Meanwhile, Velyaknovozyoki, there are very serious fights, very fierce fights. Russian troops are bypassing this settlement from the north, trying to encircle it and go to the highway, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and further, to the river Volchek, which is a fairly significant water barrier. As I understand it, very fierce battles will be fought over this line, but the main forces of those troops that stormed will soon join this grouping. Mariupol. All in all, take Operation Mariupol almost over. The armed forces of Ukraine are concentrated in 3 pockets of resistance. Iron plant named after Ilyich, Azovstal, and Primorsky district. And part of those troops that took part in the storming of the city are already ready to be sent to the north. After a short respite, they will go further, surround already grouping FU to the Donbass to take Kiev pincers. And here I want to point out another important feature. At the moment, Russian aviation for the first time began to work in a normal, serious way on railway communications, AFU. She managed to hit one of the echelons that transported equipment to the battle zone in the Donbass. I was not often asked the question, why the Russian troops do not attack the Ukrainian echelons? Why don't Ukrainian columns attack those reinforcements that are now going to the Donbass? You know, I want to take this opportunity to answer this question here. In fact, the Ukrainian armed forces rarely use such a thing as moving in columns. They move in such toad-like jumps, several tens of kilometers from one village, and on to the next, and then, and the next product, next. And accordingly, with such tactics, it is rather difficult to direct aircraft at them. And now, connections with the massive transfer of equipment. They returned to tactics, transfers with the help of echelons, and literally immediately, they were hit. And yet, Russian aviation inflicted several blows at once on oil depots in Khmelnytskaya region, in Odeskaya region, and most importantly, I was finally amazed, Kremenchugsky, an oil refinery. This is the only oil refinery in Ukraine that supplies fuel. There were also attacks on railway stations, Sinelnikovo, and Lazovaya. That is, it is obvious that Russian aviation is gradually cutting off the communications of the Ukrainian grouping on the left bank of the Dnieper River, deprives her of the remnants of fuel and lubricants, and tries to inflict losses on her with airstrikes. I understand that as the intensity of the battle for Donbass grows, Russian airstrikes will become stronger and stronger. We already stated a few days ago that the big battle for Donbass has already begun, and every new day increases its bitterness. And this will be the most important battle of this war, in which, judging by what I see now, by the movement of troops, most of the forces of each side should take part. That is, more than half of all troops that are used today in Ukraine as AFU and the armed forces of the Russian Federation must take part in this battle. This is what is happening on the main front of Donbass. Well, briefly, what happens in Khersontskaya region? According to the information that I have, Russian troops recaptured those attacks that came from Kryvyi Rog, and in general, today, Nikolaevsky garrison is preparing to repel the offensive of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, which, according to British intelligence, should begin in the very next few days. And the main goal, which, according to British intelligence officers, should be the capture Nikolaev, and possibly much more global goals. Here, as they say, no comment. I'm just passing on the data released by British intelligence. That's about what I can say. What is happening on the line of contact now? Naturally, I continue to observe the events in the near future. Expect the next review from the front line. Goodbye.
С линии фронта. До свидания.